So guys, I'm going to be walking you through some of my trades that I've been taking in the markets, both on the FX market and also the equities market. My latest buy actually on equities, as I'm a long-term equities trader, I buy them very few and far between. So these can be held for anywhere between 2 weeks all the way up to kind of 3, 4, 5 months. My latest buy at the moment is a stock called Severn Trent. It's a great company, both technically and fundamentally. So I'm just going to run you through some of the technicals. So here we can see on Severn Trent just how kind of range bound the stock has been since kind of 2016. It's just pretty much been bouncing off this 2000 level down the bottom here, which my cursor is on, and been going and rallying all the way up to around that 2.5 level, just below the 2.6 level. But before this, it's a very stable stock, as some of you guys that are traders already will know that it's a defensive stock because it's water, it's utilities. We need this on a day-to-day basis, and therefore usually the stock in itself is quite consistent, moving to the upside. So I'm just going to zoom out on my chart here and just show you kind of how consistent this stock is in comparison to, say, for example, a currency or something along those lines. So here you can see pretty much from 2000, pretty much all the way back from 1995, just the sheer valuation of how this stock has pretty much rallied and continued to rally. Here you can see where we had the financial crash of '08, which didn't really affect the stock too much, so to speak. But as soon as that settled down, you can see just how consistently the stock has been bouncing off of its major kind of support levels and just moving onwards and upwards, really. In regards to that, you can see here, if I'm just to run through the stock in a little bit more depth, you can see it's just been bouncing along the 200 moving average and really kind of consolidating and then rallying quite sharply. Now this stock is a big stock for blue chip traders. Blue chip traders love consistency and also security when they're trading their equities. So this stock is, as long as you give it a nice bit of breathing room, you are looking at getting long-term consistent gains. And it is one of my favorite stocks. Like I said, look, if you're looking here, and you can see throughout the chart, throughout 2014 here, it was just rallying off of its support levels, moving averages as well, so dynamic support levels, and moving up higher. You can see once a new high was made as well, it will then rally, come back down and test, and then carry on moving back up. So my most recent buy here, as you can see, is literally it's come back down to that level around that 2060, 2040 level, and that for me is an area of interest on this stock, especially because the FTSE index is so high as well. Usually that's pushed by cyclical stocks, pushing the FTSE higher, and when we're at extremities like we are now, I would like to start seeing a sell-off in some of those cyclical stocks, so traders would naturally turn to more defensive and secure stocks such as Severn Trent. So this kind of puts my expectations of seeing a rally in this defensive stock kind of in a good position, because I'm expecting cyclicals to sell off, if that makes sense. So yeah, technically sound, lovely position. I'm kind of expecting this position to plan out over the next kind of 3 to 4 months, so it is more long term. However, the security in these positions is really reassuring. And again, you can see the reward to risk on this trade here. We entered in just here with our stop loss just below the 2000 level, and this major support level that hasn't really been broken since April 2015. So that kind of gives me a little bit more of extra security here, and I'm looking at a good 3-4 to 1 return on my money, and that's odds that are really in my favor. And if I'm risking 1% and I'm looking at a 4% return just from one stock, you can see where I'm going with this. If I start building up a 10 stock portfolio with 3s and 4 to 1s, we can be achieving that 40 to 50% per annum on our equity portfolio. So we don't want to just take technicals at face value, because obviously we're not just technical traders here. We're the complete trader. So it's very important that we look at our kind of fundamentals about the company. So I'm just going to show you the fundamentals now. So when we're looking at this stock, it's very interesting to see here that we can use IG for this information. You can use various news channels or whatever you want to do to look up the stock and kind of see what kind of activity is going on. So it talks about short-term news here on the left-hand side about rebounding towards 2231. That was an hour ago. Client sentiment, 93% of people are long. That gives me some real good reassurance, but it's only 11 to 50 people via a IG index, which, obviously we can't see the wider picture of things, but to understand that 93% of those people are long kind of gives us a little bit more security, although we don't know how professional those traders are, so to speak, but it gives you that little bit extra. We can also see, if we move down, the broker ratings. There's 14 broker ratings suggesting that this is an average rating of a hold. Now, the good thing is, when a broker rating is at a hold rating, it has a lot of room for brokers to increase their rating on that stock. Now, if the brokers slowly start to increase their rating to a buy or even a strong buy, it puts the overall rating higher to a buy rating. Now, if that happens, so to speak, then that means that there will be a large amount of volume coming into the stock and pushing our price more in our favour. When you're looking at holding a stock long term, we kind of want to make sure that the fundamentals are moving in the right direction. It's got a dividend yield of 3.76%, so we're making money just by holding this stock, which is nice. The market cap's 5 billion. It's a really good size market cap. So that kind of information is kind of crucial for us. If we look at some of the simple financials, I'm not going to bore you to death, guys, but if we look at more into this, you can see net income is as good as it's been since 2015. If we took out the year 2014, we've got exponential growth pretty much year on year, showing us that net income is growing and growing, which is a great kind of benchmark to be giving us a more confidence in this stock. Equity is around where it has been since 2012, 2016, so it's pretty much stable. It's not growing massively, but the equity is always there. And the cash from operating activities is growing exponential. It's at the highest point it has been, just over 800 million. And again, as long as we're seeing exponential, stable growth and strong amount of cash from operating activities, then that gives me a large amount of reassurance in one of my stocks. So that's just one of my stocks on my massive portfolio. And I hope you really like Severn Trent. Give it a good look into. It was one of the best ones for me as well when I started my career, and it's still one of my favourites to this day. So that kind of gives me a bit of a rundown on Severn Trent.